When will India strike back? That's the burning question.
कि इन कातिलों को जल्द से जल्द ढूंढा जाए और इनको उसी अंजाम में पहुंचाया जाए जिस अंजाम के ये मालिक हैं।
मैं आपको आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में जैसा आप चाहते हैं वैसा होकर रहे हैं।
It's been 13 days since the brutal terror attack in Pahalgam. 26 innocent civilians were gunned down. They were Hindu tourists killed simply for being who they were. The country remembers Uri in 2016 and Pulwama in 2019. Both attacks drew swift surgical responses from the Indian Armed Forces. 11 days after Uri, Indian commandos crossed the line of control. 12 days after Pulwama, Indian jets bombed a terror camp in Balakot. Now it's day 13 after Pahalgam. Still no visible retaliation. So is something different this time? Or is something bigger in play? Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah haven't minced words. Their statements scream one message: payback is coming.
हर व्यक्ति को चुन कर जवाब भी मिलेगा, जवाब भी लिया जाएगा।
India will identify, track and punish every terrorist.
But there's more to this than meets the eye. Behind the scenes, it's a high-stakes game of geopolitics, geo-economics and strategy. Modi isn't taking Pakistan's bait, not yet. Hello viewers and welcome to this edition of Homework. This is Aman Sharma, your host at CNN News 18. Make no mistake, India is angry, furious. The collective rage of the Hindus especially is intense. There's grief, but more than that, there's humiliation. Tourists were targeted deliberately. Civilians, families, children, not soldiers. That's what makes this attack so different, so personal. The pressure on the Modi government is massive. There's a demand, not just for justice, but for revenge, for a message to be sent loud and clear. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Shah have both spoken, not once but multiple times, and they haven't held back. Modi said he would chase down the attackers to the ends of the earth. Shah promised chun chun ke jawab, retribution one by one. There is a recognition at the highest levels of government that the collective conscience of Hindu anger in the country needs to be satisfied. So what's the hold-up? Just because you don't see the strike doesn't mean it isn't coming. India's response so far has been strategic, deliberate and multi-pronged. First came the visuals. The Prime Minister meeting all three service chiefs, the Chief of Defence Staff, the National Security Advisor and the Defence Minister. A rare public moment carefully released. Why? Because messages matter. Modi has given the forces full freedom, mode, target, timing, all up to them. The message to Pakistan, we are ready, anytime, any place. The message to Indians, your anger is ours, we are on it. Then came the follow-ups. Amit Shah's statement, military mobilizations in sensitive forward areas, and the quiet but clear diplomatic steps. The Indus Water Treaty, frozen. India's tightening the flow of river water into Pakistan. The result? Flood risk and crop damage in Pakistan's farmlands. Not just symbolic, but real consequences. India has also moved the International Monetary Fund and the FATF, pushing to clamp down on Pakistan's global funding. The economic squeeze is on. All trade with Pakistan stopped, our airspace and waters blocked for Pakistani carriers. But there's a bigger game being played. There's a reason India hasn't fired a missile yet. This is not just about Pahalgam. This is about geopolitics, geo-economics and strategy. Let's break it down. India's economy is on a tear. Fastest growing major economy. Global manufacturing hub. poised to strike a landmark trade deal with the United States. Investors are looking at India as the next big story. Meanwhile, Pakistan is in a free fall, a tanking economy, political chaos, IMF loans hanging by a thread, military control over the civilian government now more obvious than ever. Just days before the Pahalgam strike, Pakistan Army Chief General Asim Munir made an inflammatory statement, and then right on cue, terrorists struck. Because Munir is under pressure. At home, he is losing face after the Baluchistan debacle. Abroad, he is struggling to stay relevant. A terror attack in India triggering a crisis could help him reclaim authority and perhaps drag India into a war it didn't ask for. Pakistan wants India to overreact. Is this the real twist? Pakistan is the one talking about war, not India. In every global forum since the Pahalgam attack, Pakistan's been shouting about impending conflict. Not as a warning, but almost as a provocation. Because here's the reality. A full-scale war would be disastrous, not just for Pakistan, but also for India's global ambitions. It could tank the stock markets, stall investor confidence, derail foreign policy wins and re-hyphenate India with Pakistan, something New Delhi has worked hard to break away from. And while India tries to rise, China is watching closely. China is facing the heat ever since the US tariffs threatened to alter the global supply chains. So we have China backing Pakistan at the UN, cozying up through defense ties. Beijing doesn't want India to stay calm, it wants chaos. China and Pakistan are hoping Modi takes the bait, but he hasn't. The US and the world are watching too. The global mood is clear. No one wants a regional war in South Asia. Not when global supply chains are already fragile. Not when Russia and Ukraine are still at war. Not when the world's two biggest democracies, the US and India, are getting closer. Vice President J.D. Vance has said it outright. The US hopes India's response is calibrated, not escalatory. In 2019, the US had called India's Balakot strike as a counter-terrorism action. Well, the template still stands. The West supports a limited, precise Indian response, one that punishes terror but avoids war. So what will India do and when? The answer may be soon, but smartly. For the last 2 weeks, Indian forces have been active in the Pir Panjal range. That's where the attackers or their local handlers are believed to be hiding. The hunt is on, it's surgical, specific and lethal. But this is only phase 1. India wants more than just revenge. It wants to send a message that terror from Pakistan will come at a very, very high cost. Not just today, but every time, forever. The next step may not be loud, but it will be visible and undeniable. Maybe a deep strike, maybe decapitation operations, maybe both. Because timing is everything. This isn't hesitation, it's calculated restraint. Modi's government knows that public is hurting. It knows emotions are raw, but it also knows that striking too soon or too big could play right into Pakistan's hands. India wants to break the back of cross-border terror, not fall into another cycle of tit for tat. And so it waits, plans and prepares. But make no mistake, justice for Pahalgam will come, in broad daylight or in the shadows, sooner than you think and harder than Pakistan expects. That's all in this edition of Homework. Signing off. See you next week.